Okay. I will work on a project team, and I will be remiss if I did not say I am also a very proud graduate of North Carolina Central University. It's so nice to be home. Thank you. And welcome from the North Carolina National Museum of African American History and Culture. So, my presentation today will walk you through the programming that I manage at the MOC. And I'm hoping, since you're such a collaborative bunch, that it leads to programming that you can replicate in your own communities. First, I want to acknowledge the land and the space that we're currently occupying here at Shaw University, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, HBCU in the South, home of Leonard Medical School, the first 4-year medical program, and also the first HBCU to open its doors to African American women or women. It is an honor to be here in this space and to share this presentation with you all. Thank you. Is that? So I'm going to try to put the money, let it rest so that I can walk you through the PowerPoint. Is that okay? Yes. I'll just start moving in. Yeah. So at NMOC, I am a member of our education department and the audience engagement unit. Our objectives today, we will celebrate HBCU collections and archives. We will work to learn new ways to empower family and community archivists, promote preservation education, and foster collaboration to support future hometown treasures programming. In celebrating HBCU collections, I want to highlight all of the wonderful work that's done here at Shaw University. I had the pleasure of meeting the staff from Shaw, Dr. M. and Marie, doing programming in Washington, D.C. And just what you see today is what I saw at the MOC. They were with students, and if I remember correctly, I think Comfort was one of the students that was in attendance as well. But they were practicing what they preach. They were promoting archives, promoting HBCUs, and also working to uplift their students so that they are aware of this field and the need for additional professionals as well as diversity in the field. So on this slide, I searched our collections prior to coming, and this is a photograph that was gifted to the MOC by the Faulkner and Delorme families. Is anyone familiar with those historic families? Faulkner and Delorme. So we have a collection of football photographs that we probably complement some of the student work here if it's not already included. The Shaw University Library and Archives, their mission is to appraise, collect, organize, describe, preserve, and make available the historical, legal, fiscal, and administrative value to the institution. The archives also provide research and scholarship by making their resources available and encouraging the use of these resources by their faculty, staff, students, alumni, and the community at large. I've spent a lot of time on their website with the digital collections, probably a little bit too much with the yearbooks, and just enjoying the very rich history. So available online. Their catalogs are also digitized. There is a very strong focus on civil rights. The Center for Racial and Social Justice is a great collaboration. Personal papers, rare books, and their preferred formats are imprinted or published materials, manuscripts, audio, video, audio material, and also digitized records. So the Save Our African American Treasures program at Lamont is actually the signature outreach program that was created by Dr. Lonnie Bunch. And I learned from Dr. Lynn that our secretary has connections here in North Carolina and also Shaw University. So I'm interested in exploring that a little more. But the program existed prior to the building being built. It was an outreach strategy that aimed to find out what people had in their homes that might help us build our collections. I want to share this quote from our founding director, Lonnie G. Bunch III, who is now the secretary of the Smithsonian. He said that Lamont will be a place where through treasured objects, all Americans can remember our shared history. The story of your community is just as important to our understanding of African American history as the stories at the national and global levels. And in looking at the list of the organizations and institutions that you all represent, the work that you do, I know that I'm speaking to the choir. So keep that in mind, that your community, your family history is just as important as those stories that are collected at the national level. So when we offer treasures programming, we are educating the public about preservation. And so the main question that we ask and then to determine is, what is a treasure? What is it that you treasure? And that's something that's very subjective. So it's any item that is highly valued or prized. And one of the things with our programming, we don't offer appraisals. Oftentimes with African Americans, you don't see items that have high appraisal values, but the sentiment, what it means to the family, the community. So we stay away from offering appraisals, but we want to talk with the individual about what it means to them and their families. So they're often based on memories and the connections to people, places, and things. So we ask that they identify family heirlooms, and maybe it's something that they never thought about. But identifying those heirlooms, and an heirloom is any item that's passed down from one generation to the next. It's an item that that family values. And sometimes we run into individuals who don't have an heirloom, but we want them to start thinking about how can they create heirlooms or ceremonies and things that they can pass on. So this photograph is one of my family heirlooms. And in this photograph, you have my Uncle George and my Aunt Amy. So why this photo is important is I came across the picture when my Aunt Zanny, who was the last of 15 children to transition, going through her family photographs, as we often do, at funerals, when we pass, those conversations, those memories. I realized that this was Uncle George and Aunt Annie when they were young. However, Uncle George is my grandfather's youngest brother, and Aunt Annie is my grandmother's youngest sister. And I always heard the story that they were told to stay away from each other, like the older brother protecting his wife's younger sister from his brother, who he knew, had bad intentions. So it was just a thrill to find this photograph after Aunt Betty passed and realize that even though they were told to stay away from each other, they connected. And they had it looks like a really good time at Atlantic Beach in South Carolina. So this photograph, you can see that it's a souvenir. And of course, we know that during that time, it was a segregated beach. And I use this as an example of why it's important to have heirlooms and also make notes. Because depending on the generation, this could easily be lost. And, younger generations don't know that story, so it's something that I now prize, and it's a part of my personal archive. So why do we encourage treasures? First, for posterity, to preserve family records and history, to prevent damage or loss, and simply because it's priceless. Again, there's not a dollar amount that we can place on many of the items that families consider significant and relevant to their history. So in all of our programs, and I'll talk more about the different iterations of programming that we offer, but we always share the 5 basic tips for preservation. So general strategies and tips that anyone can place and use to protect those items so that they are available for future generations. So the first is to avoid bright or direct light. The second is to maintain a consistent temperature. So, that item is in a place where you're comfortable. Typically, that item is going to be safe from deterioration. We also encourage them to keep objects clean, and if they clean them, to clean them with care, to guard against insects and pests. And then the 5th tip is to avoid excess moisture, so keeping things out of basements and restrooms, places where there's excess moisture. Also on this slide, I want to share with you all that this is our Family Treasures Toolkit. We give this to individuals. It contains activities that families can engage in, and the link will be available for you all to download this resource. The resource that I'm sharing with you today is more for organizations, and I know that some of you are students. Organizations are represented here. So there are 2 different versions, and then it depends on the type of programming that you want to pursue. So the various programs that we offer include District Treasures, which is in museum in Washington, D.C., is offered on-site. Preservation Station is a pop-up program, very brief, 30 to 45 minutes with various topics. And Digital Treasures. We were recently able, through funding during the pandemic, to provide programming during COVID that allowed us to do some of the same activities, but in a virtual environment. And I want to share just a video that highlights those programs. Just a moment.
The National Museum of African American History and Culture offers 2 unique programs for the public in an effort to preserve and protect family heirlooms and treasures. District Treasures and Hometown Treasures. The first, District Treasures, is an in-museum interactive program. District Treasures events will be in Washington, D.C. at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Participants will be able to bring up to 3 personal treasures and meet one-on-one with the preservation specialist and learn how to properly care for their heirlooms. Afterwards, the participants will be free to tour the museum. Many of the items people bring for review include, but are not limited to, pictures and photo albums, books, family Bibles, postcards, wedding dresses, uniforms, hats, quilts, jewelry, tins, dolls and figurines, and other collectibles. The second program is Hometown Treasures, much like District Treasures, except the event travels to select cities. Participants will be able to attend local venues with educational workshops, professional reviews, and expositions. You don't have to be in the nation's capital to take advantage of the program. Everyday items that you own, such as family photos, military uniforms, farm tools, decorative items, or even wedding dresses, are deteriorating in your basements and attics, or maybe in plain sight, in sunlight, and at the risk of being lost forever. Teaching basic preservation techniques helps us in our mission to save these objects for families and for institutions. If we don't act now to preserve our treasures, the tangible evidence of a critical component of American history will be lost to the ages. Let us help you to keep our history and culture alive and well. Visit our website today to plan and schedule your adventure to preserve your cherished heirlooms.
Did you all notice the purple boots in the video? So based on the visitor, she is the grand niece of Miles Davis.
Wow.
And so those boots belong to Miles Davis. Keep in mind, with our programming, it's not our goal to acquire the items, but to teach them how to preserve them for their family archives. Are you able to hear me okay in the back? Yes. Okay. Please let me know when you're looking in if I'm everything down. A little more about district treasurers. When we invite the community to come in, they register online, and each individual is given a 15 to 20-minute session. They are time sessions, so we use the kitchen clocks that once they sit down with a reviewer so that we can move forward and everyone gets an opportunity to have a review. So they're 15 minutes in length. They can bring up to 3 items for a review, and we set parameters on what can come into the museum because you can imagine with registrations, lots of Civil War swords, and so no weapons, no art. We do ask that all of the items be able to fit in a brown grocery bag. So much like your lunch bags are a little larger. So the professional review enables them to meet one-on-one with a professional reviewer. And professional reviewers that you saw in the video come from all backgrounds. We almost always pair our professionals, and we like to have at least one conservator that represents the different types of objects that may come in. So a conservator that works and they have to have credentials. But paper, books, photos, textiles, objects, we recruit and ask them to work the programs with us. And usually they're paired with a curator, an archivist, historian that can help to put the item in historical context. So they gain knowledge from the professional about the item. But the most important thing during this very intimate exchange is for them to share what they know about the item. And so how do they acquire it, what it means to them. And if there's damage or there's a need for stabilization, we provide archival boxes and sleeves for them to better preserve that item. And then once, because now that we're in the museum, after their review, they can then visit the museum. We have the family center. Almost always people like to visit our genealogists to dive deeper into family and family history. Just recently, we've added a different variation of district treasures, and we're working with quilters, sewing groups, artisans to encourage community and also the preservation of skills that are also in danger of being lost. So this is our pine cone quilt class, and this is home for me. I is the state quilt of Alabama, and the pattern goes back over 150 years. So we had a wonderful time with a group of about 16. They were all women who showed up and participated in this class. We also had a no-sew class with a bubble gloves. Preservation stations. Again, these are pop-up style, very brief. We offer hands-on demonstrations on what to do, what not to do when you're preserving your items. Almost all people, when we evaluate and talk with them after the program, we ask them what they learned. You find out that they're preserving things in the wrong way. So they're interested in keeping those items. They've been maintaining their personal collections, but not properly. So we talk with them about what they gained, the information that they learned. And I'm going to share a video, one of our DIY videos about note taking and how important it is to record your memories.
Hi, so glad you are joining us. I am Dr. Vanessa Anderson, a collections manager at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. I want to share with you how to document your treasures and keep your memories alive. We will follow the premise of ready, set, go. You may write or record the information for your treasures. Let's get started. In order to get ready, plan your activity. Set aside a block of time for setup, work, and please take a moment to clean up. Decide on a safe storage place. Read and research in advance. Get set. Clean your work area. Use good lighting. Set out necessary tools and materials. If possible, try to limit the distractions. I want to share with you a few things I avoid to protect my treasures. I have brought a few examples to share. Perfumes, colognes, interfering jewelry, including scarves, bracelets, and watches, lotion and creams, things that have fragrance. Also avoid snacks to keep your treasures clean. Please be very careful with makeup because it can be transferred to your treasure. No food, soda, pens, pets, and no uninvited visitors. You are ready to go. Take your time and don't rush. Look your treasure over carefully and thoroughly. Note any changes or new damage. Be sure to take photos. Enjoy the experience of preserving your history. Always record who, what, when, where, and how, plus any notes or memories. Time. Stop when you become a little tired. It will take time to put your treasure away and restore the area. For your records and notes, be sure to include who you are, your location, and the date and time. What? Describe your treasure. When was the treasure acquired? Where did the treasure come from? How did you get the treasure? To clarify, notes are any additional information and details you can provide pertaining to the treasure. I can share a sample treasure with you. I can share what I would record on my floor. Who? Renee, Susan, Andrew.
I'll stop it there. This handout is on your toolkit, so you will have samples. You can also download it if you want to use it as a resource. A lot of us in the field, we know these things, but for our community members, our audiences, they really appreciate the education and the knowledge and the how-to. An additional program that can offer is Lunch and Learn. So, feed them and they will learn. working to increase the intergenerational interest in the field, it's important to entice them to come. So lunch and learn has been a great way for us to do that. There are brief sessions. Typically, we are highlighting heritage organizations, museums, but also the people who are behind the scenes and what their roles are, so that young people entering the field or who are new to the field learn about the various careers. We also share internship and fellowship information, and that's available through the Smithsonian. And I have a postcard for you all, and I invite you to share NAMOC's internship program. We offer interns to undergrad and graduate students each semester, fall, spring, and summer. So digital treasures, we focused on Defusky Island, South Carolina. Is anyone familiar with Defusky Island? The Gullah Geechee community. I was fortunate enough to receive funding that allowed us to actually have on-site filming and interviews. We followed the migration story of Mother Isabel Hudson, and we just recently lost her in March at 100. She was the longest living resident, or I'm sorry, native of Defusky Island, and she migrated to Savannah. So our storyboard follows her life and migration to the Savannah community. But through that storyboard, we focus on church archives, cemetery preservation, of course, family heirlooms, and that resultant production is now Telly Award winning. We were also able to revisit the community, and just recently during their Savannah Black Heritage Festival in February, we had a screening at the Telfair Museum and a panel discussion with preservationists, so community members who are doing the work about the future of their efforts. And it allows for great collaboration. I think you'll find in communities that you have lots of individuals who are working to preserve history, but they don't often have the chance to connect. So Treasures programming encourages collaboration and connections that don't currently exist. This is Griffin Lotson. He is the vice chair of the Gullah Geechee Community Federal Commission. And in our film, we focused also on the preservation of music, crafts, and arts. He also manages the Geechee Gullah Ring Shower, so I'm going to play this short video.
300 years in the continent of Africa, West Africa and Central Africa. It was brought here to America and really had its birth on the plantation. So the ring shout itself, the part that came from Africa, is that circle you see going counterclockwise. And then one other aspect of that ring shout, you hear that polyrhythmic beat that we get. That came from Africa. They banned the drums in America. The Fuskies in South Carolina was first, Georgia and all of the other states, because it was communication, so they made a law so there would be no more ring shout. So the beauty of the ring shout, West Africa for the polyrhythmic turnaround that you see, and that special beat. The music itself was composed from the enslaved Africans on the plantation. The greatest word I can say from the plantation. And the Geechee Gullah ring shouters is one of those keepers of the culture of what we now know as the ring shout.
Anyone familiar with the ring shouters? So this programming allowed us to have a virtual sing-along with the group. We used a platform, and it allowed us to do almost everything that we do in person. We had professional reviews. We screened the movie together. We had an expo with groups and organizations, but visitation was great. We educated many people about the Gullah Geechee community and the ring shouters through that preservation program. I had a 61 minutes in length, and it's on our website.
300.
It's also something that you can use as a resource. The Gullah Beach community does extend into North Carolina as well. But again, through this interaction with the Savannah and the Fusky Island communities, we talked about the preservation of music and dance, quilting. There were blacksmiths in the area, sweet brass baskets, recipes, food. We shared recipes online as a virtual community. There's several historical churches that have amazing archives, and like most archives, they were in need of support and resources. Land and cemeteries. On the Fusky Island, currently it's more of a resort community, but there are historic Gullah cemeteries that need maintenance and support. There's one community member who's doing this for environmental health. She's been fortunate enough to receive some grants. Sally Ann Robinson is her name. She's also a chef and author. But this programming, this collaboration, allowed her to connect with individuals, resources that strengthen the work that she's already doing in her community. And of course, family heirlooms. So with Mother Isabel, we went to her home on Old Beach Road in Savannah and interviewed her with her son at 99. I think her son, Reverend Hudson, I don't remember his age, but it's spotlighted in the video. And she was willing to share her family albums with us. There was another community member in Fusky who was 97, who was not allowing us anywhere near his home or his things. So, of course, we honored that. And in working in this field and work, we have to respect individuals and communities. When it came to quilting and sewing, we met in a old slave cabin is where we filmed. And we had younger quilters to join what's historically known as the quilting circles, because these older quilters were not willing to talk with us on camera. They would talk with us in person, but not on camera. So, just recognizing and understanding the communities that you're working with, honoring them, and also understanding past hurt and exploitation, why they may not be interested in sharing with an organization or a Smithsonian. So Hometown Treasures is a traveling program. Again, this is the first program of the museum. We've traveled to over 15 cities. We choose one site annually. We collaborate with local heritage organizations, museums, libraries, archives. Our most recent trip was Nashville, Tennessee. And it can be either a 1 or 2 day program. And usually planning takes 6 to 9 months. And our site selections are based on future exhibits or interests that are important to our curatorial staff. So the parts and the components of our Hometown Treasures program include the professional reviews, and we talked about that earlier. If you're familiar with Antiques Roadshow, very similar, very intimate program where our guests come and they bring those 3 items. In their registration, they give us descriptions, so we're aware, we're able to match them with the proper professional. We have DIY workshops. Typically, they focus on how to preserve your photos and paper, how to preserve your textiles, and then we work with our partners to choose a topic that is relevant to that community. So when we were in Nashville, it was all about the Fisk Jubilee singers and music. That archive there is worked really well to document. There's also an expo. So one of the things that we realize is that many community members are not aware of the resources and the work that's being done in their own communities. So we'll typically invite 20 or more organizations with the hopes that 10 to 12 hands-on demonstrations, so showing them how to properly wrap or protect a quilt or box an item. And we have a box maker who comes and is on site to build custom boxes and stabilize items that need extra care. So I wanted to share with you all, before we move into the toolkit and more of the interactive part, some of the stories that have been very meaningful. Some are recent, but each training program is, for lack of a better word, I'd say magical. You know, there are always tears. Someone earlier asked about how to make this work relevant, or the need to preserve items relevant to different groups of people. A treasures program does that because we typically see people come and bring, so if it's a grandmother, they may bring extended family members to come and have that review, and they join in that conversation. I remember there was a lady who worked at 9/11, and as soon as she drove from New Jersey to DC, and her conversation was, my kids don't care nothing about this stuff. And she had created beautiful shadow boxes that utilized items from the scene. She worked in construction. So she had her hard hat, she had all of her badges when she would access the site daily there at the World Trade Center. And, you know, again, our goal is not to acquire or to take, and many people will tell you up front, you can't have this. But in that particular instance, it aligned with an exhibit, and there was interest in acquiring those items. And remember, she's the one who said, my kids don't care anything about this stuff, so you can have it. And we did acquire those items. And once the museum acquired it, she came back and said, you know, I want something back. Now all of a sudden, her children were interested in those things. So some additional treasured stories. The gentleman on the left who is having his family Bible reviewed by archivist from Indianapolis and a conservator from New Jersey. He was a graduate of Fisk University, but the interesting thing about his review was that his mother had attended Fisk University in the early 1900s. And in reviewing that Bible and some additional rare books that belonged to his mother, there was an interest from Fisk University's archives in acquiring those items. So, you know, he was, I met him at a community center, it was like a senior citizen meeting, and he was like, yeah, I got stuff, and I'll just come. You know, he came and he was happy to be there, and, you know, like, I didn't know that this meant anything. So talking with professionals gives people a different perspective. So even he had a better understanding and appreciation of all those books that he just had around that belonged to his mom, and some of them were quite rare. In the center, this is Hometown Treasures in Denver, Colorado, and this was my first program. It was a museum's first program after the building, and there was concern about attendance. You know, all of our programming is free. I don't know if you all encounter this, but sometimes when there's not a charge, people will register and then not show up because, you know, there's really no skin in the game. But Denver was a wonderful program. It's a 2-day program, so on Sunday, this gentleman walked in with a black trash bag, maybe 2, that were full. And we're closing down. The staff, they meet with him, and then they say, you have to come and see what he has. So I'm like, okay, let's see what he has. And he has all of this, you know, photographs, he has jewelry, textiles, everything's in this black bag. And then we find out that he is a grandson of W.E.B. Du Bois, maybe great-grandson. And all of those items have been lost. There's the lady who made a living by, looking at storage boxes and reselling, said this is someone who's important. And she was able to find a book and identify Arthur, who's either the great grandson or, but W.E.B. Du Bois, okay? And so she's able to Google, find him, and say, I have these things. And so it was his mom or someone lost those items to storage, and he was aware. But, out of the blue, someone calls and says, we have these things. So that was an absolute pleasure to meet him, to acknowledge his grandfather for his contributions to us as a community, and just to know that, he was not preserving his items properly. And that was his concern. How do I keep these things so that they are available for future generations? So that was pretty amazing. And then on a personal level, and before I go there, this is a photograph of Arthur with W.E.B. Du Bois before he left for Ghana. And he was a little boy, and that would have been the last time that he saw him. But just amazing heirlooms that he brought in. There was also what he thought was his grandmother's wedding veil. So our reviewers were able to measure that beautiful lace, antique white, and they said no, it's not, dimensions don't seem right for a veil. But they were also able to pull up the daughter of W.E.B. Du Bois, her wedding was like the social event of the century. So they were able, to pull out their scopes, Google again, find photographs of the wedding and say, no, that's not the pattern. And the measurements seemed like it was for a bed, and that it was probably a wedding gift linen. So he walked away with lots of archival boxes and knowledge that, okay, this is not a veil, more than likely it was wedding linen that was gifted to his grandmother. And the last photo here is the market house in Fayetteville. And the story connected there is my first week, because I love the library, because I was sharing with Dr. Van, we probably crossed paths at North Carolina Central. I was doing my orientation. The MOC has a library on site that was available for research. If you're ever interested, you can make an appointment. But as I was doing my orientation, the search, any term that I wanted, I chose my grandmother's maiden name. And through that search, I found that I had an ancestor who was lynched at the market house, Archie, in February 11, 1867. So this led me, to just be obsessed with finding out more about Archie, sharing this information with my family, because like many African American families, we were not able to research our family. We could go back 2 generations beyond our grandmother. And during that research, really underlines why HBCU collections, HBCU archivists are important. Shared this with my family. We were doing a virtual family reunion because of COVID. And then one of them was watching television, and there was an archivist from Bell State, Nicole Young, who was doing an interview about FSU, the history, and Archie. And we were able to connect and find that there was a community group, Fayetteville State University, working to advocate for Archie. And then we also, through DNA, found out they were cousins. I call them God links. But so the connections are powerful. The work is amazing. And I think that in doing Treasures programming or programming like Treasures, you will be able to connect with your communities in ways that you could never, ever dream of I'll also add that we found our enslavers' will. So I now identify my fifth generation grandmother. Also, her will, a masculine testament was found. So a lot of family research and history, even connecting with the enslavers' descendants, you know, and finding out more about them and helping them with their family research as well. So at this time, we're going to transition, and if I could get some assistance in passing out the toolkits, I have.
Before you transition,
Yes.
if you need to do a really quick trash run, can you do that real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Do that real quick. And then we'll pass out the rules.
So maybe 10 minutes. 2 minutes, like 2 minutes.
2 minute trash run. Time break.
The folders are for us. The handbook and people that are here.